This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com. And today we have a guy that a lot of you will probably remember from the later years of WCW. He was then known as the Maestro. Now he is known as Stro. How are you doing today, sir?
Hi, great to be here with you.
Great to have you. I do remember you from those days. You were also known as Gorgeous George the Third earlier in your career.
Yeah. I was paying homage, to my granduncle, who was the original years ago, and which is ironic that I didn't find that out till later on in life, as I was in the business. Actually,
Really? How did you
yeah.
find it out?
Well, I was like, I was doing some my first shots with WCW years ago, and Dusty Rhodes and William Regal, who were still friends to this day, kept partaking my style and likeness to that of the original Gorgeous George, and it just kept snowballing throughout wherever I went. And finally, I asked my grandfather. I was like, "Hey, Grandpa, getting all this flack, man. What's the deal?" And he looks at me and he says, "You didn't know?" And he's like, "Didn't know what?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't know what." And he tells me, smarts me up. He tells me that I am the grandnephew of the original Gorgeous George, and him and both of them used to be amateur boxing buddies back in the day before he broke into business.
Wow, that's
So
really
that inspired me to carry on the family deal, Gorgeous George III, and which I did so for a long time throughout various places until I, didn't even going through WCW for the first year. I think I was Gorgeous George before I changed name to Maestro.
I understand you were quite an athlete even before you got into wrestling. Could you tell us a little bit about your athletic background?
Oh man, I did a lot of things growing up. I was in theater, um, and amateur wrestling, which I was in the USA Freestyle Greco-Roman for a while, and I came real close to qualifying actually to have a chance to be with the Olympic team at one time, which was it was bittersweet and exciting and heartbreaking at the same time. Where my last match with a guy, we both slipped off the mat through the perspiration, and I tore a ligament in my knee, which I finished the match, but he got a reversal at the last minute, right? So, but it was all good. I got to train with the Iowa State Hawkeyes, which was Dan Gable was like one of my heroes growing up, for sure. So it was an honor to train with the Hawkeyes and everything. And then when I started pro wrestling, uh, Ivan Koloff, Nelson Royal, and Gene Anderson, he was with Minnesota Wrecking Crew. Ole and Lars, yeah, they broke me in, and at the time, I was I was still collegiate wrestling, so it was like I couldn't gain a pound to save my life. Everybody was like had the size advantage over me, but I was just I stayed lean for quite a bit, but yeah, it was good learning experience. They taught me so much, which through Nelson Royal, um, he broke the ice with me about the Hart family with Stu and everybody. So later on, meeting Brett and the rest of the family was really really cool, and Owen and all that. So, but yeah, I learned so much because growing up, I used to go down to Tampa and watch Florida Championship Wrestling down there. And you see like Mike Graham, Steve Kern, and Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty was actually the first guy to introduce me to Andre the Giant. Funny story. I'm at a show waiting to see Dusty, and here comes Andre in the parking lot, and his head is like above the car roof, driving in, parking, and I think he just got upset doing one of those episodes that's Bionic Sasquatch with $6 Million Man with Lee Majors, and he's coming towards me, and the first time in my life I felt like I was that low in the food chain, right? And I thought somebody thought Andre was going to eat me, right? And Dusty comes over, and at the time I thought he saved my life, but he was really breaking the ice. He was like, "Hey kid, don't worry about things. It's Andre. Andre, say hello to him, Daddy." Right? And Andre takes his hand down to me and says, "How do you do?" Right? And I reached up to shake his hand. Of course, my hand disappears. Shaking his hand, I'm like, "Fine, sir. How are you?" Right? But Andre was super cool, man. Oh my god, such a great guy, and it was just one of the few occasions growing up that really inspired me to be a professional wrestler later on in life. So it was memories like that you always cherish. Just like when I first met Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan years ago at a convenience store. They were getting some drinks. They just got to doing a show and on their way to the next town, and I helped them carry their drinks to the vehicle to so they can take off. And then like years later, being in the business, getting back in touch with them, they actually remember the night I helped them with their drinks, right? And after the show, they took me out for drinks as a thank you, right? So it's really really cool. I mean, it's interesting how things go in full circle.
How much would a guy like Blackjack Mulligan drink? I imagine he would have been loaded right up.
No doubt. It was a heavy case to carry, man. No doubt. I remember that.
Back in the days when they would actually party after shows.
Right. And boy, did they party. Oh, my God. Unbelievable.
So who did you approach about breaking you into the business?
Well, actually, with the names I mentioned, and Dust 2, they introduced me some other names. Johnny Weaver, it was an honor to meet him. And just various people. Like one of my first matches with Chief Wahoo McDaniel, which was really cool. I remember the first match we had. During the match, I picked him up in a vertical suplex, right? And after a match, I'm sitting down to lace my boots, and Wahoo sits down beside me, shakes his head, puts my arm around me, and says, "You know what? I haven't been suplexed like that since Harley Race." That's how we broke the ice and got to be friends. And he told me some really cool, road stories, traveling together, and meeting guys like Wahoo, Ronnie Garvin, Paul Orndorff, and eventually going to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, meeting the great talent, Jimmy Cornette, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Rock and Roll Express, Bobby Eaton, talked to Don Pritchard, Stan Lane, which Stan Lane put me on to the UWFI, the Pancration Wrestling from Japan, in which I got to train with those guys, and that's how I met Dan Severn, got to train with him, and big honor that was. And it was cool because at the time, he had Vader with them at one point, and Takada was their champion, and all that. And I don't know if I mentioned Gary Albright earlier, but Gary Albright, who was a beast himself, and it's so cool. Like throughout the years, I've always gotten along with all the tough guys and all the beasts of the industry, because they were always the nicest and they're most human acting, whereas the others were more prima donna, if you will. But it's crazy like that, but it's all good. I really learned a lot from my time, like my submission wrestling, striking, because at the point, all I did was amateur wrestle, collegiate wrestle, and all that. So learning the submission style and the striking style. I remember coming back and getting back into the business, because at the time, that Pancration style, it was very few and far between with the shows and events. And I get back in the pro wrestling industry, and it was like, I had a new pep in my step, if you will. I really learned a lot, and it got me in great condition and everything. So and in turn, I remember years later, funny story, doing the thing with Vader, where Vader was going around getting his heat in different territories to hype up his match with Hogan, if you call, with him and Hogan were feuding for the WCW title. I was in Indiana somewhere, I believe, and Vader did the run-in like he did a lot of the indie matches, to get his heat on for his preparing for his match with Hogan, and he ran in my match, and he got me in the corner. At the time, I was doing the Gorgeous George thing, so I looked a lot different then, right? And he didn't really recognize me, and he's getting the shots in the corner, right? And he hits me really hard with one of his forearms, and I'm seeing stars at that point, I mean, I'm trying to be old school, like, I'm not going to cover up, but I should have. And he went to throw the second one at me, and something in my head said, if I don't do something now, he's going to break my jaw. So I I ducked it. I ducked it, kicked him between the legs, double legged him, and I'm like, I'm calling him by his shoot name, on the match. Like, damn it, Leon, what the hell? Do I owe you money? And he looks at me, he recognizes who I was. I was like, hey, dude, how you doing? And I'm like, dude, just get me out of here, man. So we get out of the ring, we get him back, and the agent comes up to us like, what the heck was that? Yada yada. And Vader shoved him and said, don't F with him. That's my boy from Japan. And he looked at both of us and was like, oh, and walks away.
Now, training with Gene Anderson, I heard Al Snow's horror story of training with him. Had he mellowed out by the time you started working with him for pro wrestling?
Yeah. Was that I told Gene Anderson or Vader? Which one? I'm sorry.
Well, it sounds like Vader may have mellowed out a bit, but Gene Anderson, when you were training with him, because I know he played a role in your training, Al Snow mentioned that he trained a day with Gene Anderson, and it was pretty brutal, and Gene actually bit him. So.
Oh yeah. Gene was tough hombre, man. I've seen him take guys down by just grabbing them. He had what you call like tendon strength, kind of like how mountain climbers have, and very few people yourself know have that gift or have that tendon strength. They just grab you, just want to cry, right? They're just deceptively strong, if you will. And there are times where Gene would tell me to like get more aggressive in the ring with the guy I'm training, and I look at the guy and say, dude, I hate it. Sucks to be you, man, but I'd rather do that than have him come stretch me, right? So, I mean, but Gene, I learned a lot from Gene. Be more aggressive, how to like work the body parts and all that. Where him and Ole and Lars were like a master at times. So, I mean, I owe a lot to Gene Anderson for the training and getting me prepared for what lied ahead. So. I always love and respect for Gene.
There's a fan on here, Loose Cannon 88, wondering how your experiences with Bobby Heenan were.
Oh my, tremendous. I loved hanging out with him. I mean, Gene Okerlund. They're like some of the best times I've ever had. They're always never a dull moment, right? And I remember one time we're all having dinner, right? And Sherry comes by and says hello to us, and this fan comes up and he just got Hulk Hogan's autograph, and he wants Bobby Heenan to sign it, right? And as Bobby Heenan to sign it, and Bobby was like, "Did you just get an autograph from Hogan?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "No, forget it, pal. Besides, it's past your bedtime. You should go back to bed." And Gene Okerlund snatches his wrist away from the kid, and is like, "Hey, my watch!" Like he was trying to steal his watch. And then he had Sherry growling at him, right? And the guy runs off. I mean, oh my god, always great times with Bobby, man. I remember one time coming out of catering, there was this like squabble going on, and in the back, and it got quickly broken up and all that. And Bobby was like picking up the money off the floor. It's like, Bobby, what are you doing? And Bobby's like, hey, I got a raise tonight. Look at all this free money. It's great. I love Bobby, man. He was great. I miss him.
Who was involved in that little squabble, as you call it?
You know what? I don't know. I didn't see it go down. I just got it catering. And I know I know a couple guys like Stevie Ray and Fit Finley and Haku. They were all like laughing about it, so evidently it wasn't too much of a squabble. But I just, the funniest thing, I just seen Bobby Heenan picking up all the money that they had dropped on the ground after it got broken up. Oh, it's tremendous.
There's a fan on here that says you still look like you're in great shape. Can you still go?
Oh, well, I feel good. I really do. I work out. I probably in the best shape I've been in quite a while, actually. I went through a couple ruts here and there, as we all do if you will. But yeah, I do my yoga, I do my weight training, obstacle, and do, walk my dogs, my shepherds, my big boys, if you will. So I mean, yeah, I stay in good shape. For the most part, I try to anyway. To eat healthy and all that for because you never know. I mean, never say never. It's just like the old school way where they tell you always bring your gear because you never know when you have a match, right? So
Yeah, that is true. JD wants to know if you still keep in touch with Symphony, who I think was Alicia Webb.
yeah, off and on, off and on. Last I heard from her, she's doing good and everything, and she still looks fantastic to this day. Oh, always a sweetheart.
What did you think about her comments, which was about a year ago maybe, where she was saying that Randy Orton was getting on her case when she was back there in WWE? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, yeah. I heard some stories where Randy would get on not just on her case, but a few others. But I really didn't dive into that too much. But I hope they got whatever this settled they had going on at the time, because I mean, Alicia always treated me good.
Dustin wants to know if you had any interactions with Hulk Hogan or Bischoff, which I'm sure you did.
Oh my God. Oh, it's just too many stories. Oh my goodness. Well, actually, Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, they were instrumental in actually me signing with WCW at the time. Uh, well, we want to take you back. I got the call from them in Puerto Rico when I was doing my, I think, yeah, first tour Puerto Rico, and they called me to do a nitro in Virginia, I think, and that's where I got they introduced me to Bischoff and some the boys and the company and everything. And my first tryout match was with Jeff Farmer, who was later on did the NWO Sting, and we had a pretty good match. But the deal was they were going to have me come under a different deal and have Lanny try to do the Gorgeous George thing, but it didn't. Neither one deal at the time pan out. And funny story, they were going almost became Reverend Headlock on Thunder in Paradise, which I'm kind of glad it. I'm really kind of glad it didn't pan out because they were going to try to have me dressed in all white in the beach with a book because they saw me with a Bible when I came in to my first tryout match, right? And they had this idea of having me a book and all this sort of thing, and I'm thinking, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know if it's going to work. It doesn't make any sense. But that's one of the few roles I'm glad I didn't get, even though I did want to ride the boat because I thought the boat was really cool. Thunder in Paradise, but
Thunder in Paradise. I actually liked that show. I was obviously a lot younger when it played, but it was
right.
underrated a bit.
But
Baywatch, but with more violence, I guess.
Yeah, right. I remember still the deal they did in the beach with Kevin Sullivan and Flair, and remember they all had the little thing at the beach they had at one point.
The real Baywatch. Kevin Sullivan could actually say he was on Baywatch.
Yes, it's awesome. Funny story, right? I saw Kevin, which he's helped me out so much over the years. Kevin's amazing. Where he was on the show of Legend of Mick Dodge, right, on the Discovery Channel, and I popped. So next time I went for it, next time I went asked Kevin when I got to see him again. I asked Kevin, said, Kevin, you got to tell me, how did you get on this show, man? And he laughed and he told me the deal was he was like fishing out there in Oregon, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, right? And next thing you know, he says he sees this wild man coming out of the woods with a camera crew following him. And then they asked him, would you like to be on the show? And that's how he got on the show, the episode with Mick Dodge. It's crazy.
Wow. Now, this is an unusual question. Sean wants to know how a guy like Vader would take a dump in Japan with those small toilets. I'm sure you weren't in there with him, so you probably don't know. I heard Andre the Giant would just put newspapers on his bed and leave it cleaning.
That poor guy, man. I feel for Andre and Vader. Any guy of that mass to have to like go into small bathrooms like that, man. I feel for him.
Now you mentioned Smoky Mountain. Was it Cornette that recruited you into Smoky Mountain since he was the booker there?
Yes, Cornette really helped me greatly there, and lot of the guys stepped in. Tracy Smothers, God rest his soul. Um, he helped me greatly. Tony Anthony, Dirty White Boy, Rock 'em Express, Robert, Jimmy Golden Fuller, Tennessee Stud Stable. They're really helpful. Just a lot of people were helpful, and at the time, guys like myself, Chris Candido, and Bobby Blaze, and I mean, these guys helped us out greatly, and it was just it was a really good time. I learned a lot. Some of the great veterans there, and some of the guys I kept with years as years went by, kept up with like Kevin Sullivan and so forth, and they always reached out, helped out, and it prepared me for like Memphis later on, which Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee were really great to me. Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert were awesome, and PG-13, those guys, and so it helped me out. Me meeting with Jake Roberts, Jake the Snake for AAA, which was amazing, and to this day we're still good friends. And Jake is somebody I still learn from every time I meet him and talk to him. I'm always learning something new from Jake. Jake's just a phenomenal psychologist.
Yeah, there's actually a fan on here, Kevin Wynn, that wants to know what was it like to be in Tijuana with Jake the Snake. That must have been wild.
Oh boy, it was an adventure, man. Oh, we had so many good times. Uh, it's one time, the funny story, because we used to raid the sandwich machines at the airports because the food in Mexico was, of course, quite different than other places. So, so we do raid all the snack machines, right? And we get one time we're flying this one town, and um, right before we took off, I noticed I couldn't move my neck. What's wrong with me, right? And it turned out that Jake had tied my hair to the back of the seat in a knot, so I couldn't move, right? So here I am trying to untie this knot with my hair, right? And Jake's across the aisle from me, laughing at me, eating a Snickers bar and all that sort of thing. And I am waving. I'm like this, like okay, but the wheels will turn already. Like I always receipt time. So when we landed, right, he'd fallen asleep. He had the tray lay out with the drink and everything, and the Snickers bar next to him in his briefcase. So I went across the aisle, grabbed the Snickers bar, and I leaned over and yelled, "Wake up, Jake! We landed!" Right? He gets up, he startles, he spills his drink all over him. He looks at me. I take a bite of his Snickers bar. I take off down the aisle, and he goes to chase me. When you realize, the movies projectors still kind of come down when they show the passengers like different movies and stuff. Well, the projector was still down. So as he was chasing me, he didn't realize his head was near one of those projectors, and it smacked him. And all you could see his snakeskin boots going upside down, taking a bump on the aisle. Right? And I collapsed laughing. Right? He gets up, holds his head, is like, "Okay, man, you got me." But this is some of the many funny stories I had with Jake. But Jake, tagging with Jake was amazing, and in Mexico Triple, we got to be in Triple Mania, which was a big honor. Be a part of the main event, if you will, and meet Octagon, and working with the legendary Paraguayo was just amazing, and with the Lucha Libre style, it helped me greatly when I got in WCW, working with the Luchadors there. Going from that stint for AAA, so it was a time I always cherish, and like I said, to this day, Jake and I are still good friends, and Jake, I owe a lot to Jake, and he really is a great guy to give advice to, and I mean, for all the trials and tribulations he's been through in his life, and he's got a heart of gold, and smart as a whip, man.
I've heard some wrestlers say that the drug scene was a little more prevalent in Mexico. I know you were never into that kind of stuff, but did you notice it more than in the U.S. when you were back behind the scenes there, that wrestlers would be a little bit more open about their drug use?
Oh well, yeah, I saw a lot of the ugly. I mean, thank God. I mean, I didn't dabble in any of that, but I didn't. I wasn't one to hold it against people that did. It was just wasn't my thing. And with and Jake, he had his trials and tribulations as I mentioned earlier, but he never brought that around me. He was always respectful, even then, and that's how we got to be friends. And I got to be friends with a lot of luchadors down in Mexico because the fact that n- the ones that did talk about that, I mean, I didn't like hold it against them, and we look out for one another, and they respect the fact that I didn't, which was cool. So I mean, but I did see a lot of I saw a lot of the ugly in the business, if you will, and I mean, I love this business to death. Don't get me wrong, and but there's some things that I've seen that I wish didn't take place, but it is what it is. But you just keep on being you, and people respect you for that.
When you were in Smoky Mountain, did you notice anything unusual about Chris Candido's and Sonny's relationship back then, or was it pretty normal still at that time?
Well, what I saw, I mean, they were cool to each other. I mean, I didn't see any of the things that I heard stories from later on, if you will. Yeah, I kind of stayed out of all that. Chris and Tammy at the time treated me great, and it was cool because Chris and I were about the same age, and we're just trying to do what we love and try to make our marks in the business. And so I really identified with Chris very well because I mean he has like a sense of humor. He's real laid back, and I'm the same way, and that's how we got to be friends. And Tammy at the time was what really cool to us. So I mean, I at the at that time, I didn't see any other controversial stuff you heard about, later on. So, but for that, that's what I that's what I saw when I was there.
And I understand during that Smoky Mountain Wrestling run, you had your first WCW matches on Saturday night. I guess one of them was against Sting. How was that experience?
That was really cool, actually. Sting, that time, the first time I wrestled Sting, he just got off a tour, overseas tour, and he was like really run down and tired of everything. Which I kind of wished I had a fresher Sting to work with, right, in the ring. But yeah, hey, I'll take what's given to me, right? I'm sure I'll get my chance later with him, which I did later, so it was all good. But it was great work being in the ring with guys like Sting and Cactus Jack at the time, and um, some of the top WCW tire fellas, which I got to do. Some of them I got to do more with later on when I got signed full time with them. So it definitely prepared me and paved the way. So I take everything wherever I go as an opportunity to go to another door, if you will. And I think that's what we should do in life is take what's given to us and make lemons into lemonade, right?
How were the crowds in those days for WCW Saturday night?
It was decent. It were center stage in Atlanta at the time was it kind of was reminiscent of the old Memphis days at Channel 8. You know what I mean? We had the studio and everything, and uh, so it kind of reminded me of that atmosphere, if you will. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was just like you had these with the center stage thing. You had like the lower stair corridors, if you will, when you come up before you make your way to the ring, that type of thing. So it was good. I remember one time Harley Race was chasing Two Cold Scorpio with this taser thing, right? Just goofing off, right? And then and he's like hiding all these behind the stairs and all that sort of thing. It was hysterical.
Yeah, could you imagine in this day and age if someone tased somebody backstage with a taser? This would be in the news. There'd be a whole uproar about it. But that back then, it was just part of the fun.
Right? Yeah, oh, yeah. Today, oh my God, can it be like a hashtag? Hashtag taser, taser. 2 or something.
Yeah, I heard he caught Owen Hart with it once when Owen had just got out of the showers, and the electrocution was a little bit more intense than.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
Oh geez. What about that? Can you imagine the Abdullah angle where you got electrocuted and Halloween Havoc?
that would not work today either.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Dusty Rhodes was always the commentator for Saturday Night in later years. I understand you have a pretty good impression.
Oh, it's just like Billy Crystal used to talk about Sammy Davis Jr. It's like when you hang around the guy so much, he's infectious. He'll grow on you, right? Dusty, he really helped me a lot through the years. Uh, just always one for good advice, and he was just incredible. I mean, even before I got into business, and to the time I got into business, I mean, he was always very influential. Um, And so, oh god, Dusty. I remember one time, uh, one time I was at a card with Dusty and Piper and Orton, and I think Steiner was there too. And one of the guys was late for the town, and he was notoriously late for events, right? And some of the boys instigated me into ribbon calling him as Dusty Rhodes, right? So I call him up and I said, "Brother, where the hell you been? You late for the town? You're holding up progress, Daddy." And and he's like, "Oh, Dusty, I'm sorry, my flight was late. I'm coming as fast as I can." Right. So I hung up, and the guy comes to the town, rushes by the locker room, rushes by us. We're trying to keep a straight face. He comes to Dusty on his hands and knees, holding his legs. "I'm sorry, Dusty. I'm sorry, I'm late." And Dusty looks at him. And said, "What the hell wrong with you? You acting cuckoo, baby." And the whole locker room's laughing, right? And the guy just finally got ribbed, and he went to the bathroom and stayed there all night. Come out, but yeah, I love Dusty, man. He's great.
Well, any chance of seeing you in AEW since you were so close with Dusty, and now his kids obviously have the ultimate pull there?
I'm really happy for Cody and Dustin, and starting AEW and everything. It's great to see them putting it all together. And I see a lot of people I'm very familiar with. Of course, Jake the Snake Roberts is there with them now, and you have Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, and uh, some of the guys I helped train. Dax Hardwood, who's with FTR, is there with them now and everything. So yeah, I'm pretty much open for anything and everything. Uh, so I mean, if AEW is willing to talk, I'm ready to jump in and see what we can make of it. Never say never.
Matt, one of our members here at the Hannibal TV, is asking your best memories from USWA in Memphis.
Oh my gosh, great stuff. I remember one time uh, I was talking about this the other day. I was tagging with Scott Hall back. It was Razor Ramon against Sid Vicious and Jerry Lawler, and I start off the match with Sid, right? And Sid tags in Lawler later, and I get excited because Lawler's my size, and I snatched him and I gut wrench suplexed him, and Scott on the tech on the side of the corner was like, "Holy crap!" You know? And and I went to cover Lawler, and Lawler's like laughing on the match. Like, "Are you happy to see me or what?" But yeah, great times in Memphis. Like I mentioned earlier, tagging with Tommy Rich and Dale Gilbert. We're kind of like we had like a Freebird thing going on in our feud with PG-13. It was really awesome, and we had a hair versus hair match in the Mid South Coliseum, headlining, which was very rare at the time because usually that nod would go to guys like Jerry the King Lawler and Bill Dundee, Superstar Bill Dundee. So it was a big honor to anytime you headline Mid South Coliseum. I mean, it was a big deal, and uh, the the times I had in the Louisville Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky was really cool. I got to be on some of the legend shows there that they had, which was a big honor. Yeah, my time in Memphis was just great, and getting to work with some of the WWE talent back then that would come every now and then. The Bob Backlunds, the Undertakers, um, King Mabel, who I got to tag with a few times, was really cool. And so, yeah, nothing but great times in Memphis, man. Always cherish it.
I've always had great dealings with Sid, and for whatever reason, a lot of people like to talk trash about him and badmouth him and rewrite history that he wasn't over. But I'm wondering what your experiences were like with him.
Who is this again? I'm sorry.
Psycho Sid, who you
Psycho Sid
wrestled.
Oh, Sid's always been great to me, man. Matter of fact, Sid and Pat Patterson almost got me to WWE at one point. I was that close to being signed with WWE, really close. In fact, it was great to McMahon's. Were always cool, which they thanked me later for helping out the grandma who used to live near me in Jacksonville, because I bought furniture from her so she could like move to be in Connecticut with the rest of the family. And Stephanie and Linda and everybody, they thanked me for helping her out. But yeah, Sid and Pat Patterson almost got me in, man, at one time with WWE. And I remember it was myself and Chris Benoit actually trying out same time with WWE. And my tryout matches with Scotty Riggs, and his match was with tryout match with the late Owen Hart, in which both of us had good matches, but neither one of us, got through at the time for various reasons. But we both ended up in WCW later. So, but yeah, Sid's always been great to me. It's always a stand-up guy, and I really grateful for him, and Pat almost, getting me in at one point with WWE. So
I guess it just wasn't your time, unfortunately. Or did they ever give you a reason why it didn't work out? Because those guys did have pull at that time.
Well, it was just, I guess it wasn't meant to be, pretty much, more or less, at the time. And the same situation with Benoit, because we did, both of us had a lot of pull and support to go in full swing. But matter of fact, I almost became the original Road Dog. That was good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Jake was helping me. Jake was another guy that was really supportive, along with Sid and Pat, where I was going to be have the Road Dog deal. But I'm really happy that Jesse James got his deal with that, and I mean he had a home run with that as well. So hats off to him. But yeah, that was a little trivia for you, right?
Did you know Jeff Jarrett then from Memphis?
Yes. Through his dad. His dad was, he his dad helped me out a lot there in Memphis. I mean, he would look out for me. And matter of fact, it was through Jerry Jarrett also that I got in with Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, because the old man Jerry told him about me, right? So and then of course, through Jeff and everything. So yeah, it's a small world. It really is such a small world in industry.
Now, Jeff Jarrett, I've heard he was a really wild partier before. In recent years, he went to rehab and stuff and cleaned himself up. Was he as wild back in those days? I know you didn't really run in those circles, but you must have heard some of the stories.
I've heard the stories, but I didn't really see all that. Even the times I met Jeff, I mean, I never saw the partying side of him, if you will. I mean, he was always straight and cool with me. So
And what about Jamie Dundee from PG-13? I've never met him, but he seems to have gone off his rocker a little bit.
Oh man, Jamie's a riot, man. I love Jamie. Oh my gosh, I remember he used to drive Tommy crazy when we were like talk about stuff and Jamie he goes like 100 miles per hour talking. And Tommy was like, "Hey Jamie, just calm down." But yeah, I love Jamie. PG-13, man. We had a hot thing going at one time, Memphis, with those guys. Him and Wolfie and they were a lot of fun to work with. Oh my God, had such a blast with those guys.
Gary Prentice is watching on our The Hannibal TV Facebook page, and he is wondering if you ever wrestled John Tenta.
I always wanted to. I was such a big fan of John Tenta. I still, even to this day, I think he's one of the greatest big men in our business. And watching the stuff in Japan, and I've been wrestled in different circles where he's been, and it's just we've never like for some reason met or got in the ring together. But I really wanted to step in the ring with him because I really he was like one of the guys in the business I really looked up to and admired. And man, what an incredible guy, John Tenta.
Yeah, and he was also an amateur wrestling champion here in Canada before he went into pro wrestling.
That's right.
The Dave Kruger wants to know if the story is true that Lanny was supposed to be Gorgeous George in WCW. You mentioned it earlier, but maybe you could go into detail on that now. Lanny, of course, told us the most work he did for his hundreds of thousands in WCW was dye his hair blonde and sit at home, basically.
Yeah, man, he was ready. They had the whole nine ready for him. All this stuff. I remember Randy telling me that they had the robes down and everything, man, and they just never did nothing for some reason with him. So that's why I just kept on doing the Gorgeous George thing until started with WCW. And but yeah, he. The thing was, we were exclusive. We had exclusive deals with the company, so we can go nowhere else once we got signed. So there were times where all I knew to do was stay in the gym, and then when I finally get a chance to do something, I was like, "Oh, great!" I was just happy to get out there and do something because when you're used to working all the time, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh."
Yeah, because you were signed for a while before they finally put you on TV, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, and for that first year, I was still doing the whole Gorgeous George thing until I did the whole thing with Maestro. Which what happened with that was Randy wanted to give the name to his valet at the time, Stephanie Bellers, and so I had a meeting with Eric Bischoff to try to work things out with the company. The guys still want to do something, constructive. You know what I mean? And we got to talking, and that's where the Maestro was born, if you will, which was kind of what I was doing. It was similar to what I was doing with Gorgeous George, but my original vision of the Maestro didn't really come out till later on in my tenure with WCW, where I envisioned the Maestro more of a fan of the opera type. I had a dark side and something least little thing like bad music, whatever, to have the Maestro just go off and go psycho. And so yeah, so that's how that went about. In fact, Sid was in my debut. Psycho Sid was in my debut in Nitro.
Okay, that was a while ago. I don't remember, but Mike D mentions that you had a great entrance. I definitely remember your entrance, and maybe you could fill us in on your debut. I might have to look that up on YouTube.
Well, before they made an elaborate platform, candelabra, and everything, baby grand, and in fact, Jimmy Hart worked with me in the sheet music, which we were probably the only two that knew anything about music. The company, and plus we had both had the Memphis background, so it was great to work with Jimmy. But I had asked Bret Hart for permission to come down from the rafters because they had the harness thing, just like with Sting, where you prepare yourself down to the from the rafters to the floor, and I worked with a stuntman propelling myself down to the arena a few weeks prior to the debut. And before I was going to go do it with it on TV, I asked Brett for permission to do it out of respect for Owen. If he told me no, I would have told the office, nah, no, can't do. Because it was at the time, Sting and I were the only two doing that sort of thing. And but Brett gave me the green light to do it, and I went through with it, and I had the harness attached to my back the whole time I'm playing the piano, coming out of the rafters, right, as a safety precaution. And a funny story. One time, one of my entrances, right, as I'm coming down, I when it was time for me to unhatch the harness so I can go to the ring, I couldn't get the harness off my tights. So as I'm coming down to the ring, I still had this harness in the back, small on my back. So I'm having my match, and like every time I took a bump on the mat, that harness would grind up my spine. I was like, oh, geez. So, like, dear Lord.
Maria Davis wants to know, who was your toughest opponent?
I've really been blessed to have had some great people to work with and to wrestle with over the years. Rob Van Dam, always had great matches with him. I can do a match with him blindfolded. I mean, he'd do his acrobatics, I do the wrestling, right? Kind of like with Ernest Miller, you know what I mean? When we did our like the house show matches together, he would do his I'd have him do his martial arts, and I'll do the wrestling. And he had the entertainment factor with that. But the guys like Barbarian, gosh, we would have some crazy matches. Texas Death, Falls Count Anywhere, crazy match. But yeah, a lot of tough wrestlers through the years. I know I mentioned Vader earlier on. This is so many. I can't pinpoint just one. I mean, I know some guys I've already mentioned thus far, but just many greats over the years.
And you mentioned Ernest Miller. There's a fan on here, Big Ass Bone, wants to know, what was it like working with James Brown?
Tremendous. Very nice guy too, and very cool, because at the time, not even Vince McMahon was doing something with James Brown, and to have James Brown come out and pretty much light up the whole Cow Palace like he did that on Super Brawl was just it was just breathtaking. And a moment I'll always cherish. Matter of fact, they were going to try to get Vanilla Ice for the next pay-per-view, believe it or not, for us. So I was kind of disappointed that didn't go down, because that would have been interesting. But James Brown was great. Yeah, James Brown was great, though. He was awesome.
Every Seinfeld fan wants to know this, and there's a fan asking, were you a fan of the Maestro on Seinfeld?
Yes. God, I love Seinfeld. I love that show, man. It's awesome. I still watch the reruns to this day, man.
And Wing Chun Empire wants to know, working with Bam Bam Bigelow, what was that like?
That's definitely one of the greatest big men I've ever wrestled. To me, having the opportunity to wrestle Bam Bam Bigelow was kind of almost like my WrestleMania moment. And we had such a great match together. And he's one of the guys I've always respected. For a guy his size to do what he can do, it's just amazing. I always love and respect for Bam Bam, man.
There's another fan on here that wants to know about the politics in WCW when you were back there.
Oh my goodness. Even though as talent we're faced with a lot of barriers, if you will, we tried to make the best of what was given to us. I mean, there are a lot of times where I'm in the aisle, I'm looking at Regal, I'm looking at Booker, T, and Stevie Ray, and everybody, and the board would go up and down like 5 or 6 times and of the card, and we didn't know what we're doing until like a few minutes before we get out there. Towards the latter days, if you will, WCW. But we made the best that was given to us, and there were times where stuff I was involved in was, I guess, quote unquote, too over, if you will, and they would come back and tell us that we're getting more attention than certain individuals, right? Which I never thought I would ever hear, right? Because the point is, I thought everything we should do, we should try to get over it. You know what I mean? With everything we do on television, but it is what it is, and we made the best of it, and to get to work with arguably the greatest talent roster from all over the world. It was such a huge honor. I mean, one night you can be there with like a Macho Man and Piper, and then next night Rey Mysterio and uh, and Alex Wright or Dave Taylor. I mean, it's mind blowing how much talent was there at one point. Amazing.
It was a stacked roster. I think you even wrestled Chris Adams on Thunder once, didn't you?
Yes, yes, gentleman Chris Adams, another one of my heroes from the world class era. Oh my God, man, it was so cool wrestling Chris, and big. Matter of fact, I was sponged listening to him tell him about like some of the old days of him and Gina Hernandez before we got to the ring. So it was a real cool.
WCW had so much talent. I mean, most of us don't even remember Chris Adams being back there, but he was under contract for a while. Jake Bush wants to know, what, in your opinion, was your best match, and what is the most memorable arena that you wrestled in?
Oh man, so many great places. Um, Between the U.S., overseas. Um, I would say, there was this one match where Rob Van Dam and I went an hour one time, which was really cool, and that was really a great match, and we're both surprised we had the stamina to go in an hour, honestly, but we did it. I don't know, some best matches I've had. I know I mentioned some of them already, but I know I had a good match with Eric Young not too long ago before he actually went to WWE for a little bit a few years back. Man, there's just been so many. Ricky Steamboat had a good rating match with Ricky Steamboat years ago. It was really good. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, who still, I agree with Steve Kern, when he said pound for pound, Bobby Eaton's like one of the best in the business history, hands down. Had a good match with Ronnie Garvin actually years ago. That was really good. It was hard hitting, but it was really good. So,
yeah, he's great.
Right.
Now, I know the answer to this is no, but He's a Machine wants to know about, did you really quit over David Arquette winning the world title? I think the better answer is, who put that rumor out there? Because I've heard that rumor everywhere, but it makes no sense. You're getting the biggest break of your career and you quit over something like that.
Nah, man. David Arquette was actually a nice dude, and he donated rather a lot of his earnings from WCW to charities and different things. So he's got a heart of gold, man, and he always treated me good. I never, the one thing, and it wasn't David's fault at all. I mean, he was just there because the company wanted him to help propel them, elevate them exposure wise and everything. Use his name, right? But I guess what I was getting at was this, like you have the top prize in the company, which everybody's goal and lifelong dream is to be a champion, and that should be anybody's goal, actually, to be a champion, to be the best at what they do. And then for someone to waltz right in and take it without doing the road work in and paying the dues to get there. I mean, I can see that that viewpoint, in which trust me, I'm very old school as far as that goes. But that wasn't David's fault, and I mean, my contract was up at the time, and I had financial advisors advising me to not to resign because the company was hurting financially, which they were. And so, I mean, that, but it had nothing to do with David. David was a great guy. And to this day, he was great. I had him on my podcast, WCW Retro, a few months ago, and he was promoting this new movie that's out now, and very cool to catch up with him. But no, not much love for David, man.
Yeah, I do agree. That was a terrible angle for sure. But I don't know what's worse, that or WWE putting the tag team titles on a fourth grader a few years ago at WrestleMania.
Right.
It's part of why I hate wrestling today.
Unreal.
Rec 46 wants to know what you could tell us about Ivan Koloff, who I think was one of your trainers as well.
Ivan was great, man. Gosh, a machine to the very end. Got Ivan right at the time he got hurt where couldn't be able to get in the ring. Was still taking bumps off the top rope. Could go as long as you. Any timetable you would put on a match, he would go as long, if not longer. I mean, his cardio was just amazing, and the knowledge he had, and I wish. I mean, we all throughout the years seen how rough and tough he was, and everything. But I wish more people could see the kinder side of Ivan. He had a heart of gold, and such the nicest guy, and do anything for anybody. I mean, he's right up there to me, like Bobby Eaton and Ricky Steamboat was like some of the nicest people in the business. And I wish people could have seen that lighter side of Ivan, because Ivan was just an amazing man, and he helped out so many of us in the business. And I'll always cherish anything that Ivan helped me out with. I can't thank him enough.
And I understand he died partly due to Hep C, which he couldn't afford treatment for, unfortunately, at the time of his death because of financial issues. So it's unfortunate hearing the way that he passed, because I heard the same thing, that he was a great guy outside the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, I just wish more people could have seen that side of him. I mean, if they did, he would be the biggest baby face ever.
Sunview wants to know any memories of Buddy Landell.
Oh my goodness, Buddy Landell. Oh, I love Buddy, man. Matter of fact, I was at the last roast. I was one of the guests at the last roast they had for him before he passed. And oh my gosh, Buddy. I tell you, if Buddy could have kept himself straight, he would have been huge. I mean, that's how talented he was at one point. And if he would have changed the course of history, basically, if he could have kept himself straight. Because especially with the whole Horseman Flair thing, I mean, if Buddy could have kept himself straight, it would have changed everything. Because this guy had so much ability, and he's another one that had his ups and downs in history, and had things he was struggling with, and all that. But man, I think he was, deep down, he was a good guy. He just had some things he was struggling with. He couldn't, that got the best of him. And I just, I don't, because I know there's people in my life that struggle too, and I don't hold it against them. And so, because, I went through my tough times too, so I know exactly what it's like. So, I mean, but always respect and cherish Buddy, man, for his kindness. He always was cool to me, very kind. I always give him good advice. And even though there are things that, you question, like, why is he doing this? Why is he acting a certain way? But, I mean, it's like being part of a family, right? You have some family members you want to invite to family get together. There's some that you don't know, if not sure it'd be such a good idea, but but Buddy was always great, man. I always loved Buddy.
Angel Hernandez wants to know if you feel WCW dropped the ball with Haku.
Oh my God! It did tell you something. If this business was a total shoot, guys like William Regal and Haku would be world champions 10 times over. Haku was the man. Oh my gosh. I had such great times with Haku and Barbarian. Uh, one a funny story. One time, because we used to play basketball down in Orlando, before, like, after the TV tapings, and Haku and Barb invited me to get a partner to play basketball 2-on-2 with them, right? So I literally asked everybody in the company. I even asked Kevin Sullivan to be my partner, and they they all found out who I was on to play. Like, nah, it's all you're good, right? So it was a handicap match between myself and Haku and Barb, right? And I tell you something, I took more bumps on the basketball court than I ever did in the ring with him. Barb's blocking out the sun with his paw and everything. So I try to get cute and waist lock Ming while he's dribbling the ball, right? Haku literally drags me down the court, dribbling the ball, shoots a ball and scores. I'm like, oh my God. But they both took me out to dinner that night and everything. And I think, oh, Haku do some amazing things. I mean, he's he's legit through and through. And if WCW, gosh, if they would have given him the push like they've given Goldberg, Haku could have more than handled it, hands down. I mean, but then that's just my opinion.
How was Goldberg to deal with in the back? I guess he was probably separated from the rest of the dressing room, I imagine.
Well, actually, Bill and I hit it off, and I never thought in a million years this would happen. But turns out we had something in common. Like, we both love animals, right? And he was a big animal rights activist, and so that's how we broke the ice. And matter of fact, he was even nice enough to sign something for my dad when my dad was alive. But yeah, Bill was always cool to me, and oh gosh, I just remember one time Bill was wrestling Kurt Hennig, right? And Bill hits him flush with a spear, and Kurt a bump or anything, right? But Kurt did like two or three flips in the air, and next thing you know, I'm looking over and I see Kurt's puking in the bathroom after the match and everything. And but yeah, Bill was I mean, he was solid, but I mean, he was always cool to me. And you know, as a matter of fact, we did a movie together a few years ago, an action military film called Checkpoint, which was great to catch up with Bill, on set and everything. So this is right before he made his return there to WWE and all that. So, but yeah, Bill always treated me good, and I guess he's still doing this thing.
I think by far, I don't even think there's anyone close that he's the most over guy in WWE today. Now that the Undertaker's allegedly retired and Brock Lesnar's off the roster,
Right?
I don't think you could argue anyone's close to him as far as being over. So that's pretty impressive, and also kind of sad in some ways when you talk about the WCW roster, which at one time was absolutely amazing, which had a lot to do with its success. But Henry Class wants to know if you ever wrestled Invader #1 when you were working in Puerto Rico.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I had some good matches with Invader, actually, and it was just it was funny. One time he was telling me, he asked me to come up with an idea for a match, right? So, and amigo, you have an idea for a match tonight? And I'm like, maybe. So I shot a few ideas to him, and it's like, how about we do this? And it was actually the same idea he had before he asked me for my input, right? I'm like, why'd you even ask me for if you were going to just do the same thing, you know what I mean? The original plan. So, but yeah, it was great having matches with him. We had some pretty good matches together, believe it or not.
How was the pay there? I know I had some pay issues when working for Carlos, but everyone's situation seems to be different.
Well, I took some advice for some friends of mine in the business when they heard I was going over there, to say, if the pay starts getting rough, to always have that return ticket to come home. so, so each time I went over there, I always had the backup plan, right? So um, the pay was all right in the beginning. As you know, what's the second tour? It's pretty much okay, right? But like towards the end, when they start, give you boys will give you half now and give you half rest of the half next week. That type of thing. Once you
Yeah,
once you get that from the office,
that goes on for a while, doesn't it?
yeah.
And Carlos has that great smile where you believe him.
Here's your Panandia and Pepsi or Medallia or something. Have a good night.
Yeah, the one thing I fell for is they give you the check that doesn't cash.
Yes.
You half the check. Okay, well, here's half. This one will cash. And then come back and we'll write you the bigger one next week. And then they never do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the office for you.
Someone's asking how it was working with Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh, he was so much fun. Oh, my God. Not only in the ring, but like the skits we did, like the one time in Nitro, he got to play chopsticks with me, the piano, man. That was hilarious.
Trenton Neal says he misses traveling on the road with you.
Oh, yeah. Please, you get my best. Hello.
Someone else is asking about your interactions with Vampiro, one of the guys that is a little controversial in wrestling.
Vampiro was always treating me good, man. He really has. I remember one time, it was right after I did the thing with James Brown, and I came out with a thing where I did the Fred Sanford feint and everything, which I'm a huge Sanford Son fan, by the way. That and Godzilla, I'm all about either one, right? So I come back after the bit, and Vampiro was like, he's looking at me, bro. That's like got to be the greatest facial expressions I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he really put over big, right? And but yeah, Vampiro has always been cool to me, man. I'm really happy that he got to do some commentary, with Lucha Underground and everything, and all that. So yeah, hats off to Vampiro.
A few fans on here have asked about Vince Russo. What was it like working with Vince?
It was different. It was different, but I think he had good intentions. It just fell by the wayside creatively, but made the best of it, and a lot of us try to make his envisionment work. So.
And another bunch of fans have asked the same question. Why were you never in ECW?
I almost was there. Oh my gosh. Back when the WCW was about to go under, and I had my contract was up a few months prior. I had plans and intentions on going to ECW full time, and I was really excited to take the persona over there and see what I could do with it, right? To a different environment. But then they folded too, so it was like a domino effect at the time in the business.
Yeah, that is true, and it's never really been the same since then. A few people have wanted to know about La Parka. How was he in the dressing room, and was he really tough?
I love La Parka. I thought, he was so cool, man. Oh my gosh. I remember one time it was hysterical. Him and Alex Wright, he found out he was wrestling Alex Wright in the show one night, and and he made a comment. He pointed over to Alex Wright, and La Parka never really said anything about anybody, right? He was always cool, laid back, and he points to Alex Wright and was like name calling Alex Wright. Alex gave him the middle finger and laughing. So, but yeah, La Parka was always cool, man. I always great time at La Parka.
Rec 46 wants to know if you ever toured the UK with WCW or anyone else.
Yeah. And there was like I remember one time, one of my last one of my, well, not last, but like one of my times I did try to go to UK was a tour with Jake, which kind of got ended due to the 9/11 deal, actually, and everybody was like high alert during that time. So, um, but yeah, good times. The road trips along, short cars. My first Red Bull was from over there, actually. So,
Was it
yeah, and
Brian Dixon you worked for? It sounds like him.
Dixon, yeah, Ryan Dixon. But oh my goodness,
Lots of fun there.
remember Doc Dean, the
Yes,
dance? Yeah.
yeah, those were some not fun car rides because in those days there wasn't the cell phones either, really, that had the internet and stuff on them.
And then don't go to sleep.
Yeah, and don't ask to stop to pee either.
Right.
That's frowned upon. Mike wants to know your craziest fan experience.
Fan experience. Okay. Um, one, oh gosh, I remember. I'll tell you two. One was in Puerto Rico. I was having a Falls County match with us. A kid named Sangle Taina, a young kid out in Puerto Rico, and we're going at it and stuff. And all of a sudden, I feel a sharp pain in my shoulder, and turned around. I just got stabbed, right? And he was going for my opponent, right? And so I shoved my opponent towards you know, the locker room way, right, to get him out of the way. And I remember just decking the guy who had the knife and knocked him 3 feet. And at the time, I was in survival mode, right? I was trying to save my opponent's life and my own. And I got in the back, and they looked after me and everything. And so, and then like the other story I was going to tell you was I was in a match with Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert. I think it was at the time in Nashville, I believe. Nashville, I believe that was the place. And things were getting kind of crazy, and the point where a fan jumped over the railings and was about to stab Tommy, right? And I grabbed his wrist from behind and took him down the wrist lock and yelled for security to come down, which they came down. And when they went to restrain the guy, he grabbed my hair, right? And I I twisted his wrist so he alleviate the grip, right? And I remember just grabbing Tommy and Doug, and we got in the ring and stayed there till the fans calmed down, because we're taught a long time ago, if things get out of hand, safest place to be is in the ring until they restore order, right? So there's two stories for you, two of many.
Yeah, those are some scary situations. Angel wants to know if you ever knew Renegade backstage in WCW and thoughts on his suicide.
Yeah, that was very sad what happened to him, because I mean he was a really cool guy to me. The times that I met him was really cool, and he was just making some leeway with the Renegade deal in WCW. So like I said, very sad.
Sunview wants to know about Johnny Canine from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, who I hear was an ex-biker who did prison time and stuff over the years.
Johnny K9, yeah, he was a cool guy. He really was. He just he'd come to the locker room, and these like the chaps and everything, and all that. But yeah, he was a cool dude. He was always cool to us.
Zamachine wants to know if you're mad that wrestler Robbie Eagles is using your old name.
No, not a matter of fact. He came to ask me for permission like a long time ago. They use the Robbie Eagles thing. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? You're good. You know what I mean?
John wants to know any Tank Abbott stories. He's a very popular guy on this channel.
Oh man, Tank Abbott. Now, Tank was always cool to me, right? Um, I know he did a little brief thing with me one time. I forget, it was a Raw or Thunder or something. in which he like did the sucker punch from behind, that type of thing. Because I don't forget he was feuding with, I don't know, it was Haku or Norman Smiley or some, but they were all involved in the angle because they all came running out afterwards, did the smosh and everything. But which the segment was kind of like a big smosh
Oh,
in
I think
itself.
it was
So
Rick Steiner. It was Rick Steiner that they did that with, wasn't
Rick
it?
Steiner, right? Yeah, yeah. I just remember in that segment there was like a whole bunch of people involved in that one segment. So
They insist that that was a shoot to this day, so who knows? Gary watching on Facebook at the Hannibal TV says, "What was Rick Rude like?"
Rick Rude was great, man. He was my Subway partner. He would always share his tuna subs with me at the shows, right? And he was so kick. He talk about hunting with Rick Steiner and all that sort of thing, and he was always a cool guy, man. I miss Rick.
Sean Wood wants to know which of the boys would you say was with the most women backstage in WCW?
Oh my God. Oh goodness, a lot of heartbreakers back then, man. Uh, I know. Rick was still the biggest partier. I mean, uh, oh my gosh, Rick would. There were times where some people would try to have drinking contests with Rick, and and I would tell him, I was like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. This ain't Rick's first rodeo, right? And next thing you know, Rick's still dancing the dance floor, and I'm having to help one of them back to their room, saying, "I told you so." Smash. So yeah, it's I know Rey Mysterio, man. I know the girls loved Rey back then too, man. They just love Rey, all about some Rey Mysterio. So I mean, there's quite a few heartbreakers, you know.
How was Ric Flair backstage? I hear he's always on.
Oh yes, Rick is super. You know what? Rick is super cool though, man. It really is. And there are times I talk to Rick personally, about different things, and we even got to talking at some point about Gorgeous George talks and everything. And I remember one time I'm sitting there talking to Rick, and I think Eric Murdoch or one of the local promoters walked in, and he's thumbing through the house show figures, right? And I remember Rick thumbing through them, and it was like, my God, what are they doing? And I knew that can't be good, right? Because Rick knew more about what's happening with the company than the office did, believe it or not. But yeah, Rick, a lot of good times with Rick, man. He looked out for us quite a bit on the road and everything, and it's funny. Rick, one time I'm driving down on 85 outside of Charlotte, and this guy kept swerving me, right? And I'm like, I'm getting a little heated, like, what's wrong with this dude? So I turn around, and I didn't recognize the driver, but in the back I see Rick like laughing, pointing at me, waving at me. Like, son of a gun. But yeah, we a lot of good times with Rick, man. Rick's great.
Speaking of house shows, how many house shows did they have a week on average there? And you mentioned Rick's disdain at the house show numbers. I thought they would have been better considering all the stars you guys had.
You would think, right? It was just like I really think there was a lot of mismanagement financially that was going down, in which I was hearing stories of there was different types of merchandise that was like never sold and that sort of thing, and uh, but it was just I don't think it was really the talent as much as it was like management and the way they used the finances of the company, more or less. So it, but you're right, it could have been done a heck of a lot better.
The Wrestling Knowledge says, have you ever met the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah, actually, yeah, he was a cool dude, and I would the time I caught up with him. I mean, he has a brief moment of bliss where he was like down to earth, right, and then he got back to warrior mode, if you will, later. But yeah, but he was cool.
Cigars Dave watching on Facebook says, "Hey Stro, what about Chicante, Virginia? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Is there some story from there that I'm not aware of?" He says, "Ask
Chicante,
about Big Dog there with Big Dog."
Big Dog. Oh gosh. Um, well, I've had some good matches up in Virginia, that's for sure, for different, various promotions, companies. So um, I think I know what he's talking about. Not quite sure, but yeah, lot of great memories from Virginia area, man.
Here's an easier one. Did you ever wrestle Kurt Hennig in WCW?
Oh man, Kurt, yes, loved Kurt. Kurt was definitely one of the guys I looked up to. Just had so much respect for him. I mean, his ring work, his persona in and out of the ring. He was always happy-go-lucky. What a great guy Kurt was, man. I used to love hanging out with Kurt. He was great.
A few people have on here have asked your Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Who would those four be?
Ah, that's a tough one. There's so many. Um, I would have to put Luthez up there. Put Luthez. Well, I guess it depends on. Whew, so many greats. But yeah, Luthez had to be up there somewhere. Harley Race. Uh, Gorgeous George, and that four slot, man. Ugh, that's a toughie. I would have. I would have to put at this point put Flair.
Good choices. The wrestling knowledge wants to know which wrestling death hit you hardest on the personal level.
Oh, so many. Oh my gosh. Um, I know Eddie Guerrero had really floored me, man. Because the Guerrero family is like gold. And remember, we used to pray together before matches in WCW, and uh, so many. Tracy Smothers was another one because he really helped me a lot through the years. Um, oh gosh, yes, Sherry Martel, because matter of fact, Sherry came close to managing me in WCW. I originally chose her or Bobby Heenan, and either one of them almost had the gig, and it ended up being Alicia. Dolphus went with Alicia. Um, but yeah, definitely Sherry. So many. I just can't. Dusty, of course, Dusty Rhodes. Um, and I got look who've all lost this year. Road Warrior Animal, which I thought him and Hawk were amazing, and Hawk treated me like gold, man. Road Warrior Hawk was an amazing guy. I mean, Hawk was like, if he liked you, he'd give the shirt off his back for you. Um, but yeah, so many in our industry that we've lost. It always, no matter what, it always hits me because it's like losing family. Because we're all one big family from around the world, pro wrestling.
Pubert wants to know, he's watching on our Great North Wrestling Twitch channel. How did you get those cameos on One Tree Hill?
One Tree Hill. It's just it's like pro wrestling. It's like who pretty much, and making connections that way. So it was One Tree Hill was cool. It's just like being in Gulliver's Travels because a lot of the cast is smaller than you are, right? So you're just like, but it was a good time. I enjoyed the cameos of One Tree Hill, and in which I'm doing more acting these days. So it prepared me for what lied ahead.
There's been numerous questions on here about your acting career, and if you could fill us in on some of the bigger gigs you've done and what the status is now since you bring it up.
Okay. Well, I did a couple of seasons of Good Behavior on TNT, Sleepy Hollow on Fox, Secrets of Lies on ABC. I just did an episode of Hightown which will be on the Stars channel coming up with Louise Guzman. I'm on the Dust series, which you can watch on the Veil TV and also YouTube. And I'm going to be on set this year for season 4. I'm going to be in an upcoming film this year. I'm going to set for called The Devil's Daughter, which is a Harlequin origin story, which I'll be starring as Dr. Arkham, who runs the Arkham Asylum. I'll be in a horror film later on this year called Stench of Iniquity, portraying an ancient vampire named Abba in the film. I've done various horror films, sci-fi. I even got my own horror sci-fi show every Friday night at midnight. I do with Dorothy and the gang, if you will, called The Stro Zone, which I showcase and feature different horror sci-fi flicks from back in the day.
Really? Is that on television, or can people look that up online?
You can check out The Stro Zone on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Stro the Maestro, just like it sounds. And I have an IMDb page as well. You can check out some other film stuff on, just type in imdb.me/Rob Kellum.
And as far as your WCW podcast, where can people download that?
You can check out WCW Retro every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on vocnation.com. And I'm also on In the Room podcast with Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Brady Hicks, Kathy Fitzpatrick, Derek McDonald, and Matt Grimm every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on vocnation.com. Both podcasts are on vocnation.com.
You're keeping very busy then. Michael Collins says it's widely known many WCW contracts were ridiculous. What do you remember about negotiating yours? Of course, you weren't an established ex-WWE superstar when you signed, so I'm sure your negotiations may have been a little bit different than a Ric Flair or Kevin Nash and some of those huge ones.
Well, yeah. Of course, I went back and forth a couple times, with certain things with the contract negotiations, all. But I mean, we came to an agreement, and no complaints here. What I got paid and what was given to me. I know, even though there's quite a few that got paid more than I did, of course, but I wasn't complaining. Because I mean, the amount was really great, and it really helped me out a lot financially. So I was pretty happy.
Probably a lot better than USWA's pay was.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
James 8107 wants to know if you have any Randy Savage stories.
Oh man, so many Randy Savage stories, man. Randy was awesome. I love Randy. I'll tell you a funny story. I think I mentioned this the other day too. This involved Mean Gene Okerlund as well. This is back when Randy was the WCW champ, and him and Mean Gene and Gorilla getting ready to come out to the ring, do an in-ring promo. And I stopped Randy. I was like, Randy, I can't let you go out there like you are, man. And he's like, oh, why not? And I was like, I can't do it, man. Did Hogan say anything? I said, no. Did Bischoff say anything? I said, no. Did any of the office say anything? No. I got to get out there. I'm like, damn it, Randy, I can't let you go out there. Why not? What's going on? He's freaking out. And it says, because your belt, it's upside down. He looks down and says, oh, snap, sorry. Hey, thanks, brother. And Gene Okerlund was about to fall off with laughing, man. It was hysterical. Good times. But yeah, I love Randy, man. He was so great. And he really helped me out a lot and stuck up for me, rather, with WCW.
Biggest Richard Cranium wants to know if you have any memories of superstar Billy Graham. I know you probably didn't meet him, but you may have been a fan of him from Florida.
Oh, huge fan. I mean, the promos he would give were just incredible promos. And he was one of the guys I really looked up to growing up in the business, and meeting him up later and saying hello to him and just introducing myself, breaking the ice, and just giving the chance to talk to him was just amazing. And Superstar Billy Graham always holds special place for me.
Kevin wants to know who is the biggest backstabber in the business.
There's always a few stooges out there, right? But uh, it's really hard to say. It's like I don't. I never really bumped into anybody that was too vindictive, if you will. I mean, there's been some people that politically they thought that maybe I was taking something from their plate, if you will, which was never the case. I was just happy to be there and get TV time or just be part of the deal, right? Um, but yeah, there were some that you had to like be on your p's and q's with because you kind of figure out a little later on that what you say to some people definitely get to other people in different view ships, if you will. So
That's for sure. Someone wants to know what would be your ultimate tag team match as far as partner and opponents.
oh my gosh, there's so many greats out there now that I'd love to team with. One guy on my bucket list of I don't know if I ever get a chance to, but being a brother of the mat, if you will, I would love to step in the ring with be Kurt Angle. I mean, he's definitely the guy on the bucket list. For, amateur wrestling and being all-time wrestling great, Hall of Famer. Um, I wish that I did some of the Japanese greats, like for example, Kabashi, Kenta Kabashi, and Kawada, which I really those matches they had in Japan were just amazing. I wish I could have done more with Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen for sure, because they were like my first two heroes in pro wrestling. In fact, I remember calling Bruiser Brody Blackbeard years ago, seeing his matches, and seeing him getting a kick out of it, like, hey, he goes to Blackbeard, because I had a thing for pirates, right? And he reminded me of Blackbeard, the pirate. So yeah, guys like that. I mean, I wish I had a chance to do more with, because I really looked up to, admired them. Of course, yeah, Dr. Death Steve Williams, who I got to meet later on, and got the chance to talk to in the locker room and everything. And I would love to tag. Man, I lived in part of the varsity club actually, Mike Rotunda, Steiner, and Dr. Death. I with Kevin Sullivan. I thought the varsity club was the greatest thing ever. So.
And speaking of Kurt Angle, fans, today it was confirmed April 14th. It's a while away, but he is doing an interview with me April the 14th.
Fantastic.
Isban wants to know your thoughts on Eric Bischoff as a boss.
Eric always treated me good. He was always straight to me, man. And that's why it sucked in a way that when he left like he did, and we had all these different bosses, and they all wanted to do something different and that sort of thing. But Eric he was the guy that got me in WCW. I remember my final tryout match with Chavo Guerrero Jr., which I was like thanking God above for that, because Chavo was amazing, and we had an amazing match. And afterwards, Diamond Dallas Page was putting us over, and a lot of which I met through Jake Roberts, and a lot of the boys were praising our match, and the agents were coming in, right, and they were giving all their different viewpoints and everything. You don't know which one to believe, right? And then Eric Bischoff walks in, right, and this goes back to my grandpa used to tell me, he's like, always know who the boss is, right? So Eric walks in and he says, "That great match, guys. We could use a good talent like you. Welcome aboard." And as soon as Eric said that, all the agents changed their tunes. Like, "Oh, great match! That was awesome! That was fantastic!" And I knew right then, if I had a problem, Eric was the guy to go to. And I walked outside there in the locker room, and I saw some of the boys and Arn Anderson shaking my hand, welcoming me to the company. It was like one of the greatest feelings ever. So yeah. Eric was always good to me, man.
Thoughts on Eddie Guerrero's passing? Someone's asking.
Oh man, heartbreaking. But I know he's in a better place, and I can't wait to see him down the road. Um, Eddie will always be one of the greatest in our industry, hands down.
I'm sure you don't have an exact answer to this, but Michael Collins wants to know why you think wrestling's ratings are so horrendous these days. I'm sure it has something to do with putting titles on guys like Arquette and fourth graders and kids and people like Vince Russo and so forth, among other reasons.
Well, it goes back to the adage: in order for others to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. And some some of the old timers actually were having this conversation, very same conversation. They were saying like, it doesn't matter. Really, isn't really much as the size as the fact that you can believe someone to kick somebody's ass. Like they can be big, small, short, tall, etc. But if you think they can kick someone's ass and be believable champion, then people will believe in them. And I think that's a lot of what we have going wrong is the fact that we need our champions to be champions that can kick somebody's ass, more or less.
Yeah, and there's a lot of small guys that do the gymnastic stuff, but it's not really believable. It's a lot of leg slapping. It's a lot
Yeah.
of standing on the outside for what seems like eternities waiting to catch, and you can't really escape themselves. Then they break kayfabe, even in angles that are active. Like
Oh God, yeah.
coming up, they had people breaking kayfabe in the news media, such as
If it, if I did all that, my trainers would beat the hell out of me, man. They'd destroy me. I was like, you guys have no idea, have no clue.
I mean, people know that it's a work, but they don't need it shoved in their faces all the time. Like
That's right.
now. Now, Bill Bean hooked you up with this interview, or hooked me up with this interview, rather. And of course, he's really into UFO stuff. It's all over the news lately, and my fans overall are interested in that topic. I'm just curious your view on everything coming out recently with the government admitting that these objects, no matter if they're from another country or some other matter, are in our airspace, and we don't really know what they are. And your thoughts on that whole situation.
It's funny because I was watching Twilight Zone, the whole like marathon again over the weekend, and it's like Rod Serling made a prophetic warning about the very same thing you're talking about, right? What's going to happen? And it's like, man, Rod Serling was trying to warn us years ago about this, and here we are, right? Hollywood, man's been trying to warn us all the movies over the years and stuff, and it was right in front of our faces, and we didn't pay any mind, and now look, we're here where we are. So yeah, I, you know what, it's here, it's happening, and but it shouldn't be a surprise because I think life comes in cycles. You know what I mean? What goes around, just like the wrestling business, it peaks and valley stages, and so with everything that's going on in the world, we have to go through the peaks and valleys to get to the like the higher peaks of mountains to valleys, and it's something to think about, man. It really is. I mean, it's just life's like a chess game, man. It really is, and then when life sees a certain point of a checkmate, it goes to the reset, if you will. So I just think we're kind of like at that reset stage.
Yeah, I could have maybe thought of UFOs having something to do with the future, but I don't know about COVID with gyms being closed here in Ontario still, and over the holidays they had police here in some provinces in Canada entering people's gatherings and literally ripping people out of houses and so forth. I wouldn't have expected as much repression that's been going on, but
It's a control game, man. It's a control game, and um, it, you know, there's certain cultures throughout history have tried to warn us about the same thing because it happened to them years ago. So these things go in cycles, man, and we're happening to go into another cycle.
Ivan is asking you, how was Lex Luger in WCW to get along with?
Oh, I had a lot of fun with Lex, man. Oh my God, Lex he was a cool guy. He's just one of those guys you had to get to know right at the time, and we get along great now and everything. Just I guess the funny Lex stories for you, right? I'm having dinner one time with Dusty and Lex and all that at a show, and Dusty asked me if he could like try some cheesecake, right? And because I think he was too full, right? And I was like, I don't know. I said maybe I was pushing on Lex, So I asked Lex would he like some cheesecake, and he looks at me and says, "You're kidding me, right?" And I said, "Look, look, you big goof! You gonna turn down the dreams cheesecake he's offering?" And he looks over at Dusty, and then he goes commence to eating away. But yeah, Lex was cool. Yeah, he's always been cool to me.
Kenneth Floyd wants to know if there's anyone in particular from the wrestling world you stay in touch with.
As many as I can, man. I hear from Diamond Dallas Page every now and then. Uh, Jake Roberts and a few other people that I've known over the years. So just whoever I can stay in touch with. Of course, some stay in touch with me more frequently than others, but it's all good.
A couple of people are asking what happened to your hair. It's not blonde
Uh,
anymore.
I went to the dark side. That's good. Nah, this is went for the more natural look. I got tired of glow in the dark and everything. So hi.
Don the Juicer is asking your thoughts on mainstream media. Do you trust it?
No, I don't. No, never trust the news. It's like the guy said in 2010, the movie. I forget the actor's name, where he's telling his wife. So when the news says not to panic, that's when you should panic.
And a few people have wanted to know your thoughts on the protests going on right now as we speak in the U.S.
Well, whichever side of the fence you're on, or whatever, man, we're seeing a revolution right in front of our eyes, and I just got a feeling that if things don't calm down, we'll see more of it. So I'm just hoping this year we can finally get our act together somehow, because we went through enough hell with 2020, and I think, and so many people are hurting right now, and we just need to find a point of peace, and I'm hoping we can find that with this coming year.
Len McDaniel wants to know, how was catering at WCW? Did you get to eat for free backstage?
Oh, the catering was awesome. There were a couple of times. I remember funny story. I'm having I'm having catering there with Chris Benoit, right? And and the selection wasn't very good, right? It was like carbs are us, if you will. And finally, Chris grabs a bunch of lasagna, puts it on the table, and says, "Screw it, I'll be a fat boy today." And there was one time, I mean, one Sunday, I forget what it was, that all they had was like dessert stuff for everybody, and everybody picked out. I mean, to see Goldberg and Diamond Dallas Page and everybody just pig out on cake and pies and everything, it was glorious. And
There was a DDP interview done on this channel recently. Any thoughts on him? And is it his yoga program that you do? You mentioned earlier you do yoga.
oh, it's fantastic. I recommend it to anybody. Yeah, go visit the site DDPY Yoga, and it'll change your life, man. He's helped so many people. Helps a lot of my friends and um, his friends, and it's just something that would inspire anybody and would help anybody get better fit and better shape mentally and physically. So yeah, give my boy DDP a shout on his website, ddpyoga.com, man. It's great.
Would you have gone into MMA considering your amateur wrestling background if it had been more of a financial option back in the days when you broke into wrestling? Because obviously it was very much in its infancy at that time. Dan Severn fighting 3 times a night to make 50 grand.
Oh, absolutely, I did. I remember Ken Shamrock was mentioning it to me when, because I trained with him briefly when when I first started pro wrestling, and if it had been more fluid back then as far as advance and everything, I definitely would have dabbled more into that because I really learned a lot and really respected the sport.
Any favorites in that world?
Oh gosh, Gracie, the jiu-jitsu style, I was a fan of. Which was looking back, I was looking back at the old Muhammad Ali with Inoki match from years ago, and say back then they did the fans didn't really understand the Inoki style back then, as they would have more so now, right? With UFC's popularity and everything. So yeah, yeah, a lot of the greats back then. Now with great the Gracies, I had a lot of respect for the Gracies.
Don the Juicer says, was there any gay or lesbian wrestlers you knew about? And if so, were they treated differently behind the scenes?
You know, I knew that some that were that way, but I didn't see any ways they were treated different behind the scenes or anything. But I didn't have a problem with them. I mean, they never treated me bad or anything. So I mean, we were always cool.
And last couple of questions here. Rec 46 wants to know your thoughts on CM Punk's journey. That's a nice way of putting it, from wrestling to UFC.
Oh my goodness, CM Punk, man. Um, well, I'm really sorry things didn't work out with his MMA career, but who knows? We may see him back in the ring in pro wrestling down the road. I'm not sure what he's going to do in his future. I really have no clue, but he's definitely a personality, and so I mean, I'm sure wherever direction he ends up, I'm sure we'll be hearing about it.
JCHURPO says, thoughts on the Benoit situation since you brought him up a couple of times in this.
It's really, really, really sad because him and Nancy, I really adored and respected quite a bit, and it just saddens me the more I think about it, what went down, and I still have questions to this day, and I have to have my head scratches to this day why things went down the way they did. But um, I wish Dad will know family, and that wasn't what was it, what people back accused Chris of. A lot of us that knew Chris knew that that wasn't the Chris Benoit we knew and we're on the road with. So I just my heart goes out as always to the families and for anyone that's feels like someone is going through anything like that to please get some help.
Were you ever involved in any behind the scenes fights or anything like that? It seems like you have the personality where no one really would have messed with you and there wouldn't have been a reason for it, but the fans like to know anyways.
Well, I was a policeman for Smoky Mountain Wrestling for a little while. And what anybody knows what a policeman is when the company hires somebody to kind of bring some people back down to earth that are giving others a hard time. you will. And one funny story was there was this guy that thought he was the Ultimate Warrior, giving some of the talent a hard time, right? And so I was approached to have a match with him and to kind of, you know, see if I can do something with him or bring him back down to earth or teach him a lesson, whichever way, right? So I, I give the guy a benefit of the doubt, like I do anybody, right? And start match to start off. It started off okay, and then all of a sudden he starts losing it, like he's in outer space somewhere. And I signaled to the referee. I give him the Iggy. I was like, okay, it's time, right? So I snatched him and did a huge release German suplex. I mean, he's all up in the air, and when he comes down the mat, just he gets knocked out cold, right? Ref rings the bell, and of course I had to wake him up, smack him across the back to get him out of it. And I remember the guy looks up at the referee, and says, "Hey, what happened?" And the referee looks him down and says, "The match is over." And I get a stand ovation from the boys when I walked in the locker room. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I was relied on that from time to time to kind of look, especially there are times where I've saved some of the boys from fights, believe it or not, just by stepping in, and they always sort of have me hang out with them because they know I would look out for them, have their back, that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, this, just like anything else, I don't really want to use anything like that unless I have to, if you will. Like I said, I'm there just like everybody else to work and get paid and do what I do best. So you know what I mean. But but it's good knowledge to know to protect yourself. And I recommend this to anybody. It's good to have some knowledge to protect yourself because you never know. You have to calm someone down or in the ring or take charge, if you will, if they're hurt or they're angry or upset, and you do what you can to calm down the situation and make things better. So, but it's good to it's good to have knowledge like that because, like you said, you never know when you'll need it.
And in my experience in security, as well as even in pro wrestling, amateur wrestling is actually the best form to know as far as being able to calm someone down without actually hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely,
because if you start punching, I mean, you're looking at assault issues. I know you had some experience with Roddy Piper. Someone's asking here if you have any Roddy Piper stories.
Oh my gosh, I love Roddy, man, and he tell the greatest road stories ever. I was one in particular. I'll tell you right now. To this day, is like one of the best he's ever told, I think. And I can't do Roddy justice because the way he tells it is just amazing. But he tells the story back in the Pacific Northwest area, Sandy Bar territory, right? But they were going to debut this cat named Matman, who dressed up as Batman. But to do the DC comic book rights, they had to call him Matman. But he still had like the Batman suit, just like the '60s Batman TV series, right? Well, the deal was the heel at the time, which I think was Al Madrill from the World Class days, if you recall. They're going to do a promo with him, and here comes Matman, and he was supposed to jump on the table like a superhero and says, "I'm Matman," right? But keep in mind, this is 1970s live TV. There's no 3-second delay, no editing. So if you screw up, oh well. Right? So the show starts. Al Madrill and the commentator do the bit, right? And here comes Matman, Batman suit and all. Rushes out to ringside, climbs on top of the table, slips, falls, busts his rear end on the floor. And the audience is howling, right? And the announcer and Almadrill look at each other like this. And he takes the microphone down to Matman and says, "Who are you?" And Matman's all messed up on the floor and says, "I'm Matman. Tell all your friends." Then later on in the show was the debut match of Matman, right? So here comes Matman, Batman suit and all. Rushes out to the ring, goes to the ropes, starts the match, boom, 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 they go at it. Matman slams the guy, climbs to the top rope, extends his hands just like Jimmy Superfly Snuka style, like he's giving him the big splash, right? Well, what he didn't realize were there was these loose wires protruding from the top of the ceiling. And when one of his hands touched one of those wires, sparks flew, blacks out the whole joint, right? And the audience is like screaming, "Ah, God!" Right? And like 20 seconds later, the lights come on, and here's a smoking Madman on the top rope, falls face first to the canvas like a chopped down tree, timber, right? Boom, missed the guy like a mile in the ring, and the referee doesn't know what the heck to do. So he picks up Madman, puts him on top of the guy, goes 1, 2, 3, and that was the beginning and the shocking end, no pun intended, of Madman, explained by Roddy Piper.
I can only imagine Piper telling that.
Tremendous.
Last fan question here. Thanks for taking the time to answer all these fan questions. Ibzan says, did you ever see Haku in a fight up close outside the ring?
Oh gosh. Well, I saw he made a Japanese cook jump up and down and bow to him one night. We were at a Japanese steakhouse because he elbowed me, right. So watch this, butter. And he starts speaking in Japanese to him. And the guy jumps up and down, starts bowing to him, right. And see, well, back Haku used to be the sumo wrestling, did the sumo wrestling in Japan, right? So some remember him from doing that. Well, I've seen Haku break up fights where he just stand up, he just give him a stare, and they're like, okay, we're good, right? Like, that's the way Haku is, man. Oh my gosh. And there was one match where him and Virgil had a match. Well, he was called Vincent, right? And which he literally their whole match was he chased Vince all over the arena, and it was hysterical. And I remember one time he's looking for Vincent, right? And there was a guy in the bathroom, in the line waiting for the bathroom, and Haku was going to the bathroom, and the guy said, "Hey, I was here first, right?" And Haku growled at him, and the guy just like took off. But Haku's great, man. I love Haku.
Yeah, he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and people might find it weird, but he's definitely on my Mount Rushmore.
Yes. Yes.
So as far as your social media, where can people look you up if they want to follow you and see what you're up to?
My social media is my official my official page, website rather, is thestro.com, which is thstro.com, thestro.com. My merchandise page, simple, thestro.com/merchandise for all the latest Papa Stro merch. Facebook, of course, it's Stro the Maestro at STROTHESMASTR, Stro the Maestro. Add that to Facebook.com. Twitter at @Stro. Instagram at Stro Maestro. I'm on YouTube. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stro Maestro. I'm on Twitch for Twitch users, twitch.tv/RealPapaStro as well. And email is strofoya@yahoo.com.
There you go, and you're still accepting wrestling bookings. And someone was asking earlier why they never see you at autograph conventions. There, you're probably, people just might not realize how to book you. So that's the answer, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I do a lot of things these days with TV, film, wrestling, conventions, seminars, Comic Cons, you name it. So yeah, sky's the limit.
All right. Well, is there anything you want to say to the fans? Thanks for all the questions, fans, and thank you, Maestro, for taking the time out of your schedule to answer them, because they seem to have really connected with you today.
Oh, well, I want to say thank you guys from all over the world for your support, not just for me, for pro wrestling in general. We love you, and we appreciate everything you do. We're all intertwined together in pro wrestling from around the world, and I want to say thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you for having me here on Hannibal TV. It's a big honor, and I really appreciate everything. God bless you all.
And to close this down, can we ask you to do a Maestro promo for all the WCW fans out there?
Oh, man, okay. All right. Here we go. Mean Gene, please. I Ton Wait Newton the Dark of Shane.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this